All right, now we're ready to rock and roll again after we had a little bit of an issue there. So let's begin once again. We appreciate you tuning into the Daily Insider, our live stream here on VegasInsider.com. I am Kevin Rogers, and thank you so much for tuning in here on this day, June the 7th, here as we start up a fresh week, and we are looking forward to looking at what is going on inside of the sports gambling world. And before we get to everything that we need to get to, first let us start with our Daily Insider contest, which we have every single day from Monday through Friday. And it's very easy to enter. That all you have to do is have a Vegas Insider user ID and put your best bet below in the comment section of this video, and put your best bet for the night. It could be Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA, it doesn't matter. And it could be a side, a total, a first period play, a first half play, a player prop. It just got to be before the game. It cannot be a live bet. So you put that down there. You'll be eligible for a week's worth of handicapper picks for free from one handicapper at VegasInsider.com for 7 days. It's a $100 value for free. And if you do not have a Vegas Insider user ID, that's fine too. Go to the big yellow register button in the upper right-hand corner, hit free membership, register now, and you create an ID, a password. You put in your email address, first and last name, phone number, and birth dates. Make sure that you are eligible to bet, and you'll be all set to go. And you'll be eligible if you win your bet. If you lose, then you won't win the prize or be eligible to win the prize. And we're not giving away a prize to every single person that wins. You'll be in the drawing to win the prize. So in the comment section below, Vegas Insider user ID along with your best bet for the night, and you'll be eligible for a week's worth of handicapper picks at VegasInsider.com. All right, let's get started now with the NBA. And let's look back at yesterday's games. Let's start with Atlanta and Philadelphia. And Joel Embiid played. He had a really good game, but still the Sixers dug themselves a very big hole against this feisty Atlanta Hawks team. They knocked out New York in 5 games. I mean, a lot of people thought that even though the Knicks had the home court advantage, that Atlanta was clearly better than New York. But still, the Hawks showed that they weren't a fluke. Trae Young scored 35 points in the win for Atlanta. I mean, the Hawks hit 23s. 20 of 47 from 3. If you do that, you'll be in good shape. And the Hawks jump out to a 20-point halftime lead. They dropped 74 on the 76ers in the first half. Game easily goes over the total of 219.5 is what it closed at. I mean, you also had a 70-point fourth quarter because Philadelphia had a furious comeback, and then the Hawks held on. But 128-124, game easily goes over the total. Atlanta up now 1-0 over Philadelphia. Joel Embiid at 39 points. I mean, who knows how bad that knee was? He still scored 39 points. Ben Simmons had 17, but he was 3 of 10 from the foul line. I still can't understand why he can't shoot free throws. I mean, 3-pointers is one thing, but even free throws, you got to hit those every so often. So Atlanta up 1-0 over Philadelphia. Easy over. Another easy over in the Game 7 at Staples Center between the Clippers and the Mavericks. And LA pulled away 126-111. Now, this total closed at 211.5. And we saw totals in this series when you look back at it. We're going to go to for a second, our playoff central, our playoff hub. And look at what these totals were between the Clippers and the Mavericks right here. 217.5 barely in game 1, over 215.5 easy, over 219, and then got all the way up to 220, under 217.5, under 216 in the game 6 win on Friday night for the Clippers in Dallas. Dropped all the way down to 211.5, and the under was never threatened. In fact, 38-35 after 1, and just cruise control. So they combined for 237 on a 211.5 total. So easily finished over the total. LA ends up advancing to play Utah in the second round. First home win for the Clippers in the playoffs. They were 0-3 at Staples Center before that. Luka Doncic did everything he could for the Mavericks to keep them alive. Unfortunately, they just don't have a lot of help behind Luka. I mean, the guy scored 46 points. He had 14 assists. All 5 Mavericks, in fact, starters scored in double figures. But Kawhi had 28. Marcus Morris had 23. Paul George had 22. Reggie Jackson had 15. You're getting all sorts of help all over the place. They hit every free throw they took. And the Clippers, look, they're clearly better than the Mavericks. And Dallas is a good team, but the Clippers are one of the best teams in the NBA. So LA escapes. They go to the second round. They're going to face Utah starting tomorrow in Salt Lake City. Now, looking ahead to tonight's games inside of the NBA, and you have the 2. Now we're going to get, for the most part, 2 every night. I know you have one night this week. You have Denver-Phoenix as the only game, but it's all going to catch up. You're going to have 2 a night. You start off with Milwaukee and Brooklyn, and this number down to 1. James Harden not playing for Brooklyn. He got hurt in the first minute or so, tweaked the hamstring that had kept him out for a good period of time towards the end of the regular season. He played in the first round of the playoffs against Boston. Everything seemed to be fine. And then he ends up in game 1 in the first minute or 2. He's done now for the time being. Brooklyn still ends up beating Milwaukee in game number 1 on Saturday. I'm just going to rewind back to that for a second, back here on June 5th. 115-107. Now, just to review this game really fast. Milwaukee was 6 of 30 from three-point range. And this game was still on an over pace. 239.5 means you need 60 points per quarter. 60 times 4 is 240. You got 62 in the first, even with Harden out. You got 62 in the second. You got 58 in the third, and that was a good finish because that was a bad quarter for the most part, and then it picked up towards the end. So you were on a nice pace to get to the 240. Unfortunately, the teams combined for 40 points in the fourth quarter. So now, tonight's total, so the line drops all the way down to 1. 239.5. This is actually a 233.5. You could have got that earlier, 234.5. Now it's up to 236. So the over's getting pounded right now, and you got to expect Milwaukee to hit shots in game number 2 after they were horrible in game number 1. But the Bucks will hit the shots. The Nets can still score without James Harden. They still have 2 of the best scorers out there in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So it's not inconceivable that the Nets can drop 125 or so. They can still do it. It's just not about Milwaukee. Brooklyn put up the points in game 1. It was Milwaukee that didn't carry their end of it. So now the total's dropped a few points, and if you got on 233.5 or 234, you really got a good number on the total. Now it's up to 236.5, but still it's dropped a few points from Saturday, and the teams were still in a good pace. So I don't think over is a bad play at all to go again with that in game 2 tonight at Barclays Center, and now the line has dropped to basically, it's a pick 'em at DraftKings. It's 1 at BetMGM. So this thing went from 4 to 1 after one game where James Harden wasn't a factor at all in game 1. So kind of interesting to see how this will go. You think Milwaukee would be the right side here to even things up, but the Bucks got to hit shots, and Brooklyn's not very good defensively, but somehow Milwaukee just couldn't hit anything. And Chris Middleton wasn't good in game 1. But you'd expect him to play better tonight in game 2. So Milwaukee, Brooklyn, that's the first game at 7:35 at Barclays Center. The late game in Phoenix, Denver goes out to the Valley, and the Nuggets and Suns hooking up. First time Phoenix is in the second round of the playoffs since 2010. So it's been a while for them. And Denver, this is the third straight season they made the second round. At least the second round. They were in the conference finals last year against the Lakers. But this Denver team, though, I feel like a little sneaky, a little quiet. People aren't talking about them. That now the Clippers are still alive. Utah, what they've done so far, they're the top seed. And even Phoenix being the number 2 seed. But here's my problem with the Suns. That Phoenix beat LA. And they beat the Lakers 4 times. But it would have been a completely different series if Anthony Davis is healthy for 4, 5, and 6. He came back for 6 for a few minutes and then was done. So the Lakers were up 2-1 at the end of 3 games. With Game 4 at Staples Center, where they could have really put down Phoenix for the count. And yet, Anthony Davis gets hurt. Phoenix ends up pulling away, winning that game. Suns blow out the Lakers in Game 5 at home, and then Devin Booker goes nuts in Game 6. But, again, LeBron can only do so much. So now you wonder, Phoenix facing a Denver team that's been without Jamal Murray for a few months. Nikola Jokic is going to win the MVP. Michael Porter Jr. had a very good season, also a good first round. Monty Morris stepped up and played well for Denver. You still have Aaron Gordon, who's a quality player. The Nuggets have the pieces around Jokic, and no one's really proven to slow down Nikola Jokic. I mean, I could see Denver upsetting Phoenix in the series. They say upsets a 2-3, but I don't have as much faith in the Suns. That, yeah, they have Chris Paul, but we know Chris Paul's playoff success has been in question over the years, and it's still a young Phoenix team. Past Chris Paul, this is not a veteran-type team. Yeah, there are veterans on the team, but they're two top players besides Chris Paul, Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. It's the first time in the playoffs. And Denver's been in the playoffs the last few years. They've been tested. They were down 3-1 to the Jazz. They were down 3-1 to the Clippers and came back and won both those series last year. And yeah, they're not as good as the Lakers are, but the Nuggets have been there. I'm not down on them. They end up knocking out Portland in the last round. They had to come back in Game 6. Damian Lillard hit all those crazy shots in Game 5 to keep moving the game forward, overtime or double overtime. But I just think that Denver is a little better than people expect. And because Jamal Murray's not there, they forget they have the MVP of the league in Nikola Jokic. Let's take a look now at Major League Baseball. Since the NBA playoffs is kind of winding down as far as teams go. For the baseball card tonight, just 3 games we'll get into in just a moment, but I want to hit on some of the Sunday games in case you missed it. The Phillies beat the Nationals 12-6 at Citizens Bank Park, and this was only the second over this season. I believe it's 17 or 18 now series for Washington in the series finale. So the Nationals in series finales have been money unders, but they went through a bullpen game yesterday, so kind of a difficult one, and Philadelphia scored 7 runs in the 4th. That kind of ruins your total, too. Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins pitched a dynamic game, and the Marlins end up avoiding the sweep against the Pirates, winning 3-1. And Pittsburgh took the first 3, but Miami settled down. They won Game 4 of that series, and the Marlins now sent Pittsburgh to a 1-11 record, their last 12 series finales, and 0-7 at home. So if you can fade the Pirates as a short dog in those series finales, do it. It's been money in the bank. That Pittsburgh has played well sometimes, a few times this year, but series finales are terrible. They just can't win. They don't play well. The Dodgers lose another start made by Trevor Bauer on the road. And again, Bauer has put up some of the best numbers in the National League. Not Jacob deGrom numbers, but still some of the best numbers. But 2 runs scored for the Dodgers. They haven't hit lefties well. And Bauer, who pitched very well against Atlanta last year in the National League playoffs with the Reds, he had that 12 strikeout game. They lost 1-0 in the opening round that the Reds lost twice to Atlanta. But the Braves, though, they take 2 of 3 from the Dodgers, a little bit of revenge from the NLCS last year, and that game stays under the total. And Trevor Bauer continues to be a machine as far as unders on the road the last 2 years, a great success rate. So keep an eye on that moving forward. The Brewers pull off the sweep of the Diamondbacks 2-0. And Corbin Burns, who, again, in the Cy Young conversation with his teammate Brandon Woodruff, who won the day before, and obviously Jacob deGrom right now is the favorite. But Milwaukee, they take all 4 from Arizona. And the Diamondbacks, they were competitive in that series. They hung around, but still, just they're not on the same level as the Brewers right now. And Milwaukee gets the win there. So the NL Central standings as we speak, just take a quick look at it, that it's really tight atop that NL Central. when you go through Cubs and Brewers tied going into today's action, St. Louis 2 back, even Cincinnati 4 back, and we'll get to what happened there. The Reds waking up, and that was a must-needed sweep that they got against the St. Louis Cardinals. And the Reds, who were swept earlier in the season by the Cardinals at Busch Stadium, they took all 4 this weekend at St. Louis. That's a great job by the Reds. And Cincinnati had plenty of chances to blow that game yesterday. Up 7-0 after 3. The Cardinals came back and tied it with 7 in the 6th, as you see there. Reds get 1 in the top of the ninth to go up 8-7. Cardinals get 2 hits, Goldschmidt and Arenado right out of the gate in the ninth. You got second and third, no outs. Couldn't score the tying run. But to be fair, on the Goldschmidt hit, it was a ground rule double. So that one's always kind of a burn that you have to stop the play. And Arenado couldn't, it was Arenado, I believe, that got the base hit, the double. And yeah, it's a real ruiner, that you can't get that run in when you think you have it. But the point is that the Cincinnati Reds, though, get the sweep, and it was Arenado that had the ground rule double. Goldschmidt had the single, then Arenado. But the Reds get the 4-game sweeps. Now Cincinnati's moving up the NL Central standings, and the Cardinals, who had been playing well, now the Cubs have passed them, the Brewers have passed them. The Cardinals are still in it, but we thought this would be a really good race the whole year, and it still is. And we see a lot of movement there as the days go by. The Cubs, who had a rough weekend in San Francisco, they were down 2-0 out of the gate, 3-1 after 2, but then they come back and beat the Giants 4-3. So Kyle Hendricks, he settled down after a tough start. Cubs avoid the sweep there in San Francisco, so the Giants get the first 3, Cubs get the last one, and they remain out there to face San Diego, which we'll talk about in a second. The Padres lose both to the Mets, or last 2 days rather. Padres took the first 2, then they lose the last 2 to San Diego. Yesterday it was 6-2, the Mets won, so the Mets a good job there. Marcus Stroman pitches well, and he had some struggles for a few starts, but he needed to get that win. You got him at a good price there, and the Mets end up splitting the 4-game set with San Diego. The Orioles bounce back after they were routed by the Indians on Saturday. Baltimore took 2 of 3 there, jump up to a 7-0 lead out of the chute, 18-5 win over Cleveland. The Astros knock off the Blue Jays 6-3. That game up in Buffalo, and Houston a short dog there. Luis Garcia has been a nice addition to that Houston rotation. He's pitched well every time he gets the ball. The Twins over the Royals 2-1. They had some high-scoring, crazy games before yesterday, but that one easily stays under the total of 9. The White Sox get 3 early. They beat the Tigers 3-0. That was after Detroit won on Saturday. So Dylan Cease continues to pitch well for Chicago, getting him at a minus 200 favorite. How about the Tampa Bay Rays down 1-0 going to the 8th inning? How about if you had the under in this game too? 1-0 going to the 8th. Tampa Bay gets 3 in the 8th, 4 in the 9th, 7-1, pushes the 8. So that one's kind of terrible, but the Rays end up knocking off the Rangers. Seattle, this is another game that got high scoring in the 9th inning. Seattle holds off the Angels 9-5 as the Mariners up in that game 4-2 going to the 9th inning. So you had 6 runs. You had the over. You're pretty happy. 8 runs there in the final inning. And the Mariners, they continue to play well. They do. You got to give them credit. Patrick Sandoval pitched well for the Angels in the loss. The Red Sox hold off the Yankees 6-5 in extra innings. A game that the Red Sox trailed most of the way. They came back, took the lead. Yankees tied in the 9th inning. Boston got 2 in the top of the 10th. Yankees only could get 1 in the bottom of the 10th. And the Red Sox pull off the sweep of the Yankees 6-5. And New York struggles continue of late. And that was the first series for Boston and New York this year, so we'll see them plenty more times. But good job by the Red Sox after they lost the first 3 at Houston, won the finale, and then took 3 in New York. So good job by them. Colorado holds off Oakland 3-1. So you had a couple low-scoring games in that series after you had the high-scoring game in the opener. And that's the look at the Sunday games. Monday, this will be pretty fast because there's only 3 games. And we'll start at the top. Cubs and Padres, second time they're matching up in about a week, the Cubs ended up sweeping the Padres at Wrigley Field last week. And in one of those games, the up-and-coming Adbert Alzolay, that's how you say his name, Adbert Alzolay, has been a very good addition to the Cubs rotation. Only a 4-4 record, ERA of 3.62. But his strikeout numbers this season, he has struck out 6 or more in 8 of his last 9 starts. He had 7 strikeouts against San Diego last week, went 5 innings, gave up 3 hits, and a 6-1 win over the Padres. So he keeps racking up strikeouts. So keep an eye on Alzolay as a strikeout machine, because he could do that. Ryan Weathers goes for San Diego. Did not know this until last few weeks. Ryan Weathers is the son of David Weathers, the former Yankee and Marlin pitcher. And when you see the faces, the resemblance is right there. But Ryan Weathers, 2.06 ERA for the Padres, and he lost to the Cubs last week 4-3, gave up 4 earned runs in just 5 innings of work. But so far this season, at least the last 2 starts he's made at home, the Padres have won and they've gone over the total. So that one, keep an eye on tonight. That's the ESPN game. And also the Padres, they've scored 2 runs or less in 3 straight games. So their offense not really cooking, and they have lost 6 of their past 8 games. But they're a short favorite tonight against the Cubs, who avoided the sweep yesterday by the Giants. So we'll see if if Chicago can't pick up the momentum from the San Francisco victory yesterday or not. The Angels and the Royals, that's also a late game tonight out west. So you got to wait a little bit for some of your baseball. Dylan Bundy, who's 0-6 on the season, he has struggled of late. He's a heavy favorite. Jackson Kowar, he goes for Kansas City. This is his major league debut. And he's one of these pitchers that in the Royals system that is supposed to be doing big things. He pitched well in Omaha, their AAA affiliate. And he gets the ball for the first time tonight. And this Royals team, who just lost to the Twins, we'll see what they do. The Royals did take 2 of 3 from the Angels when they met earlier this season in Kansas City. And the Royals, 29-28 so far on the campaign. That's impressive considering the fact they had an 11-game losing streak mixed in there. So good job there by the Royals to come back to life. The last baseball game of the day, or the night, I mean, it's the day technically, it's a 5:10 start, is Miami and Boston. And this matchup, I'll give you a little, I'll take you behind the curtain for a second. At least something I've noticed over the years. I don't have the concrete numbers in front of me, but I've noticed this is won more than it's lost. When you get these makeup games, and things have changed a little bit where now they're squeezing in the 2 7-inning games as opposed to just having a sole lone makeup game on a day. I've noticed in these makeup games, look at the underdog. And for some reason, they play better. Boston's in a tough spot tonight. Nick Pivetta goes for them against Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez is a very good pitcher for the Marlins. Maybe the record doesn't indicate it, but he's put up really good numbers this year. Nick Pivetta is coming off a good outing against Houston last time out. Red Sox have lost twice in his starts this year. 9-2, 10-2 so far in his starts. And he's been a really good find from the Phillies. But the Red Sox are coming off this 3-game sweep of the Yankees, late finish last night against New York. Now they come home. Granted, I know it's not a lot of travel. They get Houston coming up again tomorrow at Fenway. You squeeze in a game against the Marlins at 5-10, and you already beat the Marlins twice in this series that they that was last weekend. It stopped because of the Sunday game that was rained out, and now they got to make up the game. So you got to wonder where Boston's focus is here as far as just trying to get through this game tonight. You just play the Astros-Yankees, get the Astros again. Now you got to mix in the Marlins, who are at the end of their road trip. Miami getting a little bit of momentum yesterday with the win at Pittsburgh. It still ended a losing streak, so they got to feel good about themselves going to Boston. And then this will be the last game of their road trip before heading home to face the Rockies tomorrow. But you get a good pitcher in Lopez, probably some down motivation for the Red Sox, and underdogs have normally fared well in these make-up rain-out games. That it's a good look because they're usually a little more motivated, even though they're on the road, than the home team is. The home team just kind of wants to get through it. So it's not really the road team that just wants to go home. It's the road team that plays better than the home team in these situations. So I do like the Marlins in this game tonight against the Red Sox, and for them to end their road trip with back-to-back wins. And again, for Boston, they were a dog or pick 'em basically most of the weekend against the Yankees. And yeah, the Red Sox are better than the Marlins. There's no question about that. But I just think this is a letdown spot for the Red Sox here after the 3-game sweep of the Yankees. So that's a look at Major League Baseball, simply because there are just 3 games tonight, which is very weird. But I guess you're giving some teams a little bit of time. Let's look at the NHL really quickly. And you had 2 games yesterday, both exact 5-1 finals. And we'd like to thank the Winnipeg Jets for showing up in this round. I mean, how much are the Oilers kicking themselves for losing that series to Winnipeg? And the Jets thought, oh, well, we avoided Toronto. We got Montreal instead. And so far the Canadiens have dominated them. That Winnipeg is just totally checked out. After, you would have thought, what's funny is, you would have thought Montreal would have been checked out after beating Toronto in 7 games, coming from 3-1 down. All right, we beat our rivals. This was our Stanley Cup. And, we got Winnipeg. We're not getting too excited about it. But yet it's the opposite, where Winnipeg is sort of checked out after they knocked out Edmonton. And the Canadiens are playing with so much momentum right now. They've won now 6 consecutive games, 3 against Toronto and 3 against Winnipeg. So Montreal wins 5-1 yesterday, and they're going to play again tonight in Montreal, going for the sweep. Like, Montreal is 1 win away from the Final Four of the NHL, which is nuts. But assuming Montreal wins, they'll get either Colorado or Vegas coming up in the next round. So good luck with that. You're not playing Winnipeg anymore. The Golden Knights have tied up that series at 2 games apiece. 5-1 blowout of the Avalanche yesterday. So Vegas now, they are alive and kicking. They're tied up at 2 with Colorado after falling behind 2-0 in that series. And taking a look at what we have tonight in the NHL. We'll start with the Jets and Canadiens. We just talked about them. So that could be a sweep there for Montreal. I mean, why even take a shot with Winnipeg? I'm not saying back Montreal, but what value is there in Winnipeg? They haven't looked good at all in the series. Now, granted, if Winnipeg wins this game tonight, they'll be favored at home in Game 5. So it's the last time you'll get them as a sizable dog. But still, what have they proven to back? The Islanders and the Bruins, that total at 5 at most places. And Islanders have tied that series at 2 games apiece. So New York's still hanging around there. Boston a heavy favorite again. And Boston trying to get that 3-2 series edge. Remember, Islanders and Penguins were tied at 2, and the Islanders won the final 2 of that series. So we'll see what the Islanders here do here on the road against Boston. I mean, this is exactly how it was drawn up, right? You get Montreal, you get the Islanders potentially in the Final Four, but again, we'll wait and see. And then you have 2 games tomorrow, Tampa Bay and Carolina. Tampa Bay can close things out there, and Vegas and Colorado with the big Game 5 at Ball Arena in Denver. And that's a look at what's going on in the NHL. Don't forget, you can buy handicapper picks here, our expert picks here at VegasInsider.com. $29.95 per handicapper, and that will get you their picks for the day. And also, we have the guaranteed picks, $39.95, pay after it wins, where basically you only have one play, but it's the best play of the day from our handicappers. And if it wins, you pay the $39.95, but you also have a winner. If it loses, you pay nothing. So that's the trade-off there, that if it loses, then you, yes, you didn't win your bet, but at the same time, you don't have to pay for the pick. So that's good. NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, all of those selections are out there right now for you. Want to remind you also about the Daily Insider Contest. You have to have a Vegas Insider user ID. If you don't have it, you go to the big yellow register button in the right-hand corner, and that will help you get set up for it. It's free, so you don't have to worry about paying anything to be registered. It's all free. Vegas Insider user ID, and put up your best bet for the day in the comment section below of this video, and you'll be in the drawing to win a week's worth of handicapper picks at VegasInsider.com. Also, make sure you're a subscriber as well to our Vegas Insider channel. We appreciate it. But you'll be in the drawing for a week's worth of handicapper picks from one handicapper on VegasInsider.com. You got to have a winner. If you lose, you don't get the prize or not eligible for the prize. But if you win, then you are. It could be a side, it could be a total, it could be a first period play in the NHL, it could be a first 5-inning play in Major League Baseball, it could be a player prop. It just can't be a live bet. It's got to be before the game. So get that in, and you'll be all set. And that's pretty much it. So we will be with you again tomorrow for the Daily Insider at noon. I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching today's edition of the Daily Insider. And as always, best of luck with your bets.